Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius. Today, we're going to talk about some very awesome stuff. We have a video game about expanding a kingdom with trees, another book about Samantha Spinner, and we have a totally awesome guest. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Henrique Franhani. Henrique is a director and has acted in a number of shows and films.
Thank you for having me, Tiberius. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Privilege being here, man.
Well, today we're going to start off with the video game of the week, and this is going to be a chop.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
And now it's time for the video game of the week. Today's video game is My Kingdom. This game is made by Simple Games. Because it is on Roblox, you are able to play it on PC, Mac, Xbox, and even your cell phone. And it is free.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. And you may remember Simple Games from their other games, God's Glory and City Life. But this is a completely different type of game. So first off, I get into the game and you see some hexagons with some trees. The tutorial says to chop down the trees and return to the castle. So you're kind of like a giant because the trees are so tiny. So next, when you buy so much land, you can purchase villages that have workers that will chop down the trees for you instead of you doing it, which is pretty good. But as you get more and more land, raiders come to stop you. That's not good. So you have to make a barracks and to train swordmen to, defend your land, of course. But as you grow, everything costs, more and more and more.
That's like life.
True. Well, you can rank up your player weapons and lands. Once you unlock that last plot of land, you are offered to go to a new world. My dad has been to 5 worlds so far, and well, when you go there, you have to start all over again. But you do get to keep your weapon. And you guessed it, everything costs twice as much. Hey, that sucks. Well, I give My Kingdom 9 out of 10 stars because I liked fighting the raiders and getting lots and lots of trees to sell. Isn't that fun?
That's fun. I mean, I love selling trees. Christmas trees, especially now.
Well, yeah, true.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of our dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom Braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering, to trophies and awards. They can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373.
Now it's time for the book of the week, Samantha Spinner and the Boy and the Ball. This is the book. This book was written by Russell Gins. Remember to the back of the book. In fact, Henrique, would you like to do the honors?
I'd love to, yeah. All right, let's see. At last, Samantha Spinner tracked down her uncle. Now it's time to get some answers. Only it's impossible to know where to start. Where did the rain come from? And what about the sun? Who made the rusty umbrella and the incredible ways to travel? Where did Nipper go?
Wait a second. What? Where did Nipper go?
I don't know.
Where did he go?
I don't know.
Well, this is an Arab book and it's for 6 full points. It's rated for 5th grade and 5th month. This is a great book for kids that love mysteries. So if you remember, the second book, Samantha, was hot on the trail of her uncle. Now she's gonna find out what all this is going on. I like that they found the uncle in New York with Buffy, and Buffy didn't even know that Uncle Paul was there. Crazy. Well, I like that they found the uncle in New York City with Buffy, and she did not even know it. Well, I really like that Nipper got stuck in a ball of yarn and ended up in the ball, and everyone lost him. And his dad ran right past the ball. And I'm like, what? But I think that kids that like puzzles would enjoy this book. I like the map puzzle that used the path of travel to cover up unwanted words and reveal the secret message. I give Samantha Spinner and the Boy and the Ball 10 out of 10 stars because It was really cool that she finally found Uncle Paul, but he would not answer any of her questions. He just didn't want to. That has to be frustrating.
Definitely.
And now it's time for the interview of an interesting person. Today's guest is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Henrique Franhani! Henrique is a director and produced the popular film The Emotional Pianist.
Thank you so much for having me here, Tiberius.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it, man. That's awesome.
You're welcome. So first off, how are you enjoying being on the show?
I mean, man, the atmosphere here, it's amazing. I mean, I love the studio. I love what you're doing, what the show is doing. What I love the most about the show is that a young person like you is doing it, and you love what you do, and that's what I encourage people is always to love what they do in life, you know. And seeing such a young person like you doing it at such a young age is so encouraging to me to see the next generation moving towards their dreams. So I love being here, man. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Okay, so you are a director.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to my listeners what exactly that means?
So a director is basically in charge of the whole movie. So usually people think that the director is someone that, you know, finances the movie, that, you know, does that. That's the producer. The director is basically the one that he's the captain. He or she's the captain of the ship.
That makes
So
sense.
they're in charge of controlling the movie where it goes, primarily in terms of story and character arcs and stuff like that. So a director would be in charge of he would be in charge of telling the cinematographer, who's the person behind the camera, what shots they need to get. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that also the director is the one that's behind the camera, and that's not necessarily true. Because the director of photography is the one that's directing behind the camera, and the director tells the director of photography, hey, I need you to do this and this for me. And then the director goes up to the actors and say, hey, I need you to do this and this for me. And that's what the director does. He's exactly for he or she.
The main boss.
They're in charge of the film set, but they also have to respond to the producer if they're not producing. So they're in charge of the ship, but the ship
has to, you know, give some
get
stuff
somewhere.
Get somewhere.
Exactly.
That
So
makes
it's a
sense.
huge responsibility because you're in charge of everyone that's inside the ship, but you need to take the ship safely where it needs to go. And that's basically what a director does.
Not
in
like
film
what
set.
happened in Titanic.
No, not at all.
No. So, do you have to hire the actors and make the storyboards?
Yeah, so in terms of independent filmmaker like myself, because I'm not mainstream, you know, obviously I'm not a big director, you know, in Hollywood or anything like that. So for me, it's one of those things that I, as an independent director, I need to do everything myself. So I did cast my actors, especially for Emotional Pianist. It was a search, you know. I had to go online and
find people.
Exactly, and find good people that could do it, and
That could actually play the piano.
exactly, and
that could play these type of notes that you would like them to do.
exactly. So it's very specific in regards to that. Storyboards, I also have to do them, but what I did for pianist was really funny because I'm not the best like drawer. Like I don't draw well. So I
could help you out with that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, you draw well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe the next movie I'll call you up for it. So, but I actually took pictures of what I wanted and I created like a shop board of what I want.
It's kind of like an animation of what you want.
Kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. So basically, I do everything myself.
Yeah,
So.
that is true.
Mhm.
So how long does it take to plan out a movie?
It all depends on the size of your movie, budget, script, and really just depends on what your vision is for the film. So I'll use an example. I'll use Emotional Pianist. I had the idea back in high school, but I wasn't able to do it. And then when I was finally able to do it, it took me around. I started, a couple of months. It was like December of 2019, all the way to in
February?
February of 2020. It took me 3 months because I was looking for locations.
Yeah, looking for locations that looked like a
actors.
dance studio.
Exactly.
And one that had a little girl and a little boy, or basically.
Well, I had to find the right
people.
actors. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how Emotional Pianist took to make.
Yeah.
But it all depends. I had friends that did movies that took them like 5 months. And there's people like a Hollywood movie takes years to make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it all
depends on how long it is.
Exactly. It all depends on the movie itself. And then you have to adjust your time based on what the movie requires. Exactly.
So how long have you been doing this?
I have been doing it for 3 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, I have, I've started right after high school. I decided, during high school I did a lot of theater. Because
So that gives you the acting.
that gave me the acting, and because you are a good actor, you can be a good director.
That is true.
Because
you know how to act, and because now you can tell the other people how you want them to act.
Correct.
So maybe instead of like drawing it, you could act it out.
Exactly.
in front
So
of them.
the reason why I did theater in high school was because I wanted to do filmmaking, but there was no such thing as like a film club or there was TV production, but that's mainly TV.
Like
that's not
mainly
really
TV.
exactly.
It's not like
It's not film. So what I did was I said, let me do theater because that's the closest thing to film that I have now. I love doing it. Love theater. Great time there. And now, as soon as I graduated, I decided, let me do filmmaking. So now I have the acting.
now that I have the acting,
I can go and be a better
everything
director.
that I need. I can now go into filmmaking.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what made you know that this was the go-to job for you?
To be honest, I knew this was the go-to job for me because of passion and because of talent. I do want to say, of course, you have to consider yourself talented to be in filmmaking. You have to know whether or not you're good, because for you to be successful, you have to be good at something, and for you to be good at something, it's hard work. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Some people are prodigies and they're born and they
just think about stuff and then they write it down.
Exactly, and they have it. But some other people need to really work hard on their craft, and that's where you get to be successful. And for me, my desires to make movies is because when I was a kid, movies for me transported me to another reality, to another place where I could be myself, and I just loved those stories. I loved the characters, the stories. It just made, as a kid, it just made me like love films.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, when growing up, I was like, what do I really like? I like to make people laugh. I like to tell stories, What's the best way to do that? Through movies.
Through movies, yeah.
Movies, acting, that's why I love the industry, and that's why I want to be in the industry, because at the end of the day, filmmaking is storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
You're telling a story. So for me, the best way for me to tell my stories is through films. Yeah.
Well, does it take a lot of formal training to be able to be a director?
I wouldn't say, if you mean by formal training, school, like film school.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that film school is not necessary, but it is helpful.
Yes.
For an example, I went to film school, and I am no longer in film school. I'm still in college, but I'm not in film school no more because it didn't work for me. For me, I was much more hands-on, trying to get jobs right now and focus on learning by doing jobs instead of learning in school and then doing jobs. You see what I'm saying? So for me, it didn't work out. Now, I have friends that are in film school and it's working out for them. That's great. Just like you see directors in Hollywood, if you literally pick like the best directors in Hollywood, almost half of them did go to film school. Half of them didn't go to film school. So you even see on the best of the best, there's this parallel. One going and one didn't going doesn't make them worse than each other.
Yeah.
It's all about personalities and preferences. So I would say that film school is an optional choice. It all depends on your character, your work ethic, and what you really want out of a film education. But it does take a lot of training
Oh yeah.
inside the job for you to be a good director. The only way you're going to be a good director is by doing movies all the time, working on movies all the time. That's the only way you're going to be a good director.
Oh yeah.
There's no other way for me to recommend people to be a good director. Is just make a movie. And nowadays, there's no excuse.
Sweet.
Everybody has an iPhone. So if you want to be a director, go make a movie. You have your iPhone, go make a movie if you want to be a director. So
Or if you don't have an iPhone,
well then,
you still have a cell phone.
you still have a cell phone. Hey,
Yeah.
correct. Everybody has a phone nowadays. So
So, what is the best part about working together in the entertainment industry?
well, filmmaking in itself and the entertainment industry is a collaborative art form. So I love it because you're not sitting by yourself behind the computer and just creating these movies out of nowhere. It's very collaborative, and that's the part that I love because you get to meet people that you're gonna take on for the rest of your life. I have a friend, and we're still friends today, and we've been working together for 3 years now. And he's the director of photography and emotional pianist, my friend David. And me and him we're friends to this day, and it's because of our continued collaboration within filmmaking. You see what I'm saying? So I love it because you get to meet people like him. You get to also reintroduce old friends into it because filmmaking has a lot of facets. And so, for example, an emotional pianist, the choreographer, she's my old friend from high school. So you get to reintroduce people into your life through filmmaking. So I love it. It's awesome to be able to work with people and get to know people through it.
So, what was the most interesting thing that you learned from all the projects that you have worked on?
So I think the biggest thing I learned was probably that without hard work, you're never gonna achieve anything. And that's a lesson for life, but especially in filmmaking.
Oh yeah.
Like filmmaking, making a movie is hard. People don't get it. People think it's just you turn the camera on and everything's perfect and there you go.
Well, what is the hardest part about being a director?
Hardest part about being a director, in my view, for me, the hardest part is having the confidence that you can carry the film through. Because at the end of the day, the movie falls on the director.
True.
If the movie sucks, it's my responsibility.
Yeah,
If the movie's a success,
Because you have responsibilities of your own.
exactly. The movie's a success, that's my responsibility. So for me, the hardest thing is to have the confidence before the shooting, during shooting, and after the shooting, that the movie is going to be a success.
Oh yeah.
And that I'm going to be able to pull it off. Sometimes, many projects that I've done didn't work out. And that's fine. Learn from your mistakes. That's how I got to pianist.
Oh yeah.
If I didn't do my previous short films, I would have never gotten to the one that I have now. And in the future, I'm going to look back at pianist and I'm going to be like, wow, that wasn't good. Because
I can make it better.
Because I'm better. In the future, I'm going to be better. So I'm going to look in the past and I'm going to be like, yeah, remember that movie that I thought it was really good back in the day? Yeah, that doesn't even compare to what I have
A
now.
couple of years back.
Exactly. So it's all about work ethic, and it's all about you having the confidence that you can deliver the film.
What's the craziest thing that has happened while you were doing your job?
Well, I think that the craziest thing that happened while I was doing filmmaking was probably when this past summer I was acting in an independent feature film called Sugarhead, and I had to be under sand, literally underground in the sand, with only my neck sticking out, and a tarantula was let loose in front of me during the scenes. That was probably the craziest thing that happened to me because I was freaking out the whole time. And I was telling the director, cut, stop. But we got the shot, and I'm excited to see how it comes out. But that was definitely the craziest thing that ever happened to me
that must
on the
have
film
been.
set. So
So if you could think of one other thing that would make your job easier, what would it be?
one thing that would make my job easier, it would probably be more communication within the crew. Because a lot of times the problems that happen on set is because people are not communicating. So exactly, correctly, and sometimes people don't communicate at all. So I think that more communication is definitely something that would help the job a lot.
So you made the short film Emotional Pianist. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so like I said, Emotional Pianist is it's a dear project in my heart because it's a movie about life, and that's what I wanted to portray in the film, is how life is quick, man, and we don't realize it, how fast it is.
But
Yeah.
it's really fast.
And by the time, if you get to live to be in an older age, you don't realize how lucky you are and how time flies. So Emotional Pianist is really a special project to me because of that message that can resonate with people, and it's just a message that I hope people will realize after watching the film is, wow, I need to spend more time with my loved ones. I need to spend more time with my parents. I haven't called my brother this week. Let me talk to them. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think it's a special project in my heart, because of the message.
So I see that you got a lot of awards for the film. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so the film, thank God, won a lot of awards. Many festivals that we got a chance to play at. The ones that really stood out to me was the Orlando Independent Filmmakers. Those awards there were great because we won, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Music.
Well, which of the awards are you most proud of?
Definitely Best Music. As much as I loved winning Best Director and Best Picture, for me, Best Music has a special significance because the music is what drives the film. And also because, a lot of people don't know this, my grandma wrote the music for the film. So, and for her to be writing it is a testament of how good God is, because she had cancer 3 years before I was born. And she prayed to God saying, Lord, please deliver me from this so I can see my grandchildren.
Wow.
And now, and for her to be working with her grandchildren now, for me, it's a blessing. And for me to have her in my life, it's a blessing. For me to have her music in my life, in my film, and carry that, it's a blessing for me because I'm taking my family with me.
So I'm guessing that she got the award?
She got the award. I didn't get no award for Best Music. She got it. It's her award. But I'm proud of that because it's a testament of how good God is and how God delivered her. So.
Well, good job, Grandma. Huh?
Yes.
So I run a radio show and a podcast that talks about God during my Lying Strong segment. So how do you include God's message in the projects that you work on?
Well, so I like to include it, of course, because as Christians, I think we should tell the gospel and preach it and tell everyone about God and Jesus. And so for me, it's important to have those messages under my films, but I don't want to make it preachy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Emotional Pianist has a lot of God in it. Because it's about life. It's about,
Going to
memories. Heaven. Yes, heaven. There's an afterlife component to that. So there's some undertones of that, of how important life is. And, especially Emotional Pianist, like, people might be leaving the film thinking, oh, I really need to focus more, like I said, on my family, on my loved ones, because I don't know how much time I have. And that can make them question too. Is like, okay, she went to heaven, right? The main protagonist went to heaven. How do I know how I'm gonna get to heaven? you know,
or where I am.
where I'm gonna go. Yeah. It forces people
Because she went from her living room to the
heaven,
dance studio.
straight to heaven. You know.
So where am I gonna end up?
Exactly. So for me, it's one of those things that I don't want to make it preachy. I don't want to make it, too much on your face, but I definitely want to input those values and communicate the message of the gospel in my films. Directly, sometimes indirectly. An Emotional Pianist was an indirect way of communicating the values of the Bible.
Yeah.
So that's how I want to incorporate God. And another way that you incorporate God in your life is a lot of times, people think, oh, I need to go into ministry. I need to, be a pastor. That's how I'm going to. No, you incorporate God in your life by representing God wherever you go. For example, in filmmaking, a way that I choose to honor God is by not doing films.
Well, did you do that at your first job? Like, introduce God into your life?
I didn't. And that's a good question because...
Well, what is your first job?
My first job, my first couple of films were definitely not centered on those values. And I remember clearly God calling me out of it and saying, and I remember praying about it, and I remember, through reading the Bible, realizing that a lot of the movies that I was doing were not, coherent with what God wants for my life and for other people's lives. So that night, when it was a night that I was reading, and that night I remember praying and saying, Lord, I want to do what you want me to do in my career. And that doesn't have to be, I'm only going to do Christian films.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do now is whenever I do a project, it has to have biblical values in it.
That makes sense.
So I don't do anything with, sex, drugs, and rock and roll in it. Because I don't want to have that affiliated with my name. Because my name, if I call myself a Christian, then I'm I'm affiliating myself with God, and I want to represent God well on earth.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So who helped motivate or inspire you the most in following your dreams?
Definitely my parents. If there's somebody that really, really helped me, motivate me, were my parents, because I'm from Brazil originally, right? I was born there. And when my parents came to the U.S., they came with nothing. We didn't have any, job opportunity when we came here. My parents came with nothing on their names, and they built it up so that me and my brother can have a future here. And instead of my parents saying, look, we came to America, so you better be a doctor, so you better be a lawyer, the typical answers. They said, we came to America so you can be whatever you want. So for me, that just them saying that, you can be whatever you want.
You can be anything.
Anything.
You can do anything.
Exactly. That for me...
I'm doing this.
Exactly. So that's why I love the show, because it's like, it's you and your dad working together. It's a lot like my family. Even though my parents don't work in films with me, they're my biggest supporters. They're...
Like
ever. They'll ever be. So for me, that's very special to me, and I honor my parents a lot because of that.
Well, what advice would you give my listeners if they wanted to grow up and work in the entertainment industry?
So the advice that I'll give to anyone that wants to work in the entertainment industry is for you to work hard and have a vision, have a plan for what you want. And make sure that filmmaking is really what you want to do, because filmmaking is hard, and it's hard to do, and it's hard to make. So make sure that it is what you want to do, first of all, and second of all, if it is what you want to do, work hard at it. You're only going to be successful in filmmaking if you work hard, if you put the extra hours into your work. So that's my advice. Work hard and make sure that that's your dream.
So what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Biggest mistake I've ever made. I would say probably not obeying God sooner. You know, just focusing more on myself, being selfish. Those are probably the biggest regrets I have in my life. You know, because if you honor God in what you do, then you're gonna end up feeling more accomplished. You know, and I didn't do that when I was in high school and when I was even a little bit in college. So for me, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes of my life, was not obeying God sooner in terms of the calling for my life within filmmaking. And the other thing too is, being a lot of times with the job you can be selfish. There's a lot of pride that comes into it in entertainment. It's a very prideful industry because, of course, we want to be prideful of our work, of our films, but a lot of times that pride can get into animosity towards other people.
That makes sense.
So,
Well, okay. Now can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid show, but that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
One story I'm not supposed to tell you about. An embarrassing story. It would probably be when this is back in high school, and I was playing one of the lead roles in a production that we were the first high school to do the show Bright Star, which is a Broadway show, and we took it to the International Theater Conference in Nebraska.
Wow.
And so I was playing this character in front of 2,000 people, and my big number had come up, and in the number I'm the villain, so I do something very crazy, and when I do it, the whole audience screams, like 2,000 people screaming, and I get out, like I'm leaving the stage, right, because it's pitch black, and they're screaming while it's pitch black, and I leave the stage, and I do like a small, yes, I've done, like I got it, very small, very subtle. I go backstage, and one of the main actors comes up to me, and it's like, when you got off stage, did you say yes on the mic? And I go, in my head I'm going, no, I didn't. I told him, I said, no, I didn't, but I definitely said yes. And then after the show was done, and the whole time I was thinking, oh my gosh, the director is gonna tell me something, I'm in trouble now. After the show, I went to the sound guy, and I said, hey man, did you hear me say yes or something after my big number? He was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, wow, okay, that was so embarrassing to me, because I was like, oh my goodness. Oh man, everybody was screaming, so that's why nobody heard it, but whoever was backstage was able to hear it, so It was pretty embarrassing because of that, but
Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
I mean, I pretty much said everything, filmmaker, Christian. I think that something that people don't know a lot about me is that I'm pretty open I'm a pretty open book. Like, I like people. I like talking to people. I like, interacting with people, because that's what filmmaking is about.
Oh, yeah.
You're telling human stories.
Yeah.
So, I'm a pretty open person, and I just love working with whoever wants to work with me. And I respect everyone, and I want to be an example that we can do better and be better people in the world.
Do you have a Facebook or a website for my listeners who want to follow you?
Yes, so my Instagram is @Henrique Franhani. So it's my first name and last name all together. And then my website is henriquefranhani.com. So just first name, last name.com. So,
Okay.
yeah.
What is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
I think that you might have forgot to ask me maybe more about, my acting career. Because that's something that I've done a lot. I've done a lot of short films and, theater, that kind of stuff. But I love that you also focused on more of directing, because that's what I do mostly nowadays is directing. I still love acting, but what I really like is directing. So.
Nice. So, thank you, Henrique, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Sure.
Sweet.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it's time for Math Corners. Thank you, Henrique, for helping me with Math Corners. Today, we're going to talk about Algebra 1. So last week, we talked about variables. This is used a lot in algebra. So, algebra is a part of mathematics that uses variables to represent numbers and formulas of equations. Now, we talked about solving problems that have two variables, and the answer would make a line. So, there are a few times when the answers are not in a line. That is when the variable is part of an exponent. These can create answer sets, but that is much higher than math for my grade. Well, there are different types of equations that deal with exponents. My dad's favorite one is called the quadratic equation, but there are also cubic equations and logarithms. But for lower algebra, we use linear equations, which, as the name suggests, all the answers are in a line. The other types will have curves in their answers and you graph them. But I'm beginning to really like algebra. I might even like it more than geometry. Ooh, that's why I like it. So Henrique, do you not know all about Algebra 1 and variables?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Well, my teacher says I always use math every single day. Do you have to use math as a director?
Yes, in a sense, because you do need to be able a lot of times to be able to calculate shots and how much time you have in the film. So you definitely use math a lot in filmmaking. So.
Well, thank you so much, Henrique, for your help with Math Corners. You know what it's time for. It's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the heart of a lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about nobility. For me, I think nobility is remembering we are God's special possessions and acting in a noble way, showing courage and honor. The qualities of nobility are goodness, virtue, honor, generosity, and selflessness. I saw nobility with my dad. This week, my dad yelled at me. This was not fun. So he had a very bad day, and so did I. I told him that I had a bad day, but would not tell him what was wrong. He started to yell and parked the car to take a moment. I have not seen him this upset in a very, very long time. After he calmed down, he told me that he was sorry and asked for my forgiveness. Being able to ask for forgiveness is hard, but it's a part of nobility. I told him it was okay, but he said that he was wrong. But he would not allow me to record him. He was saying that he was wrong. No proof. Darn it. So Henrique, did you see or use nobility at all this week?
Yes, I think I definitely use nobility in a sense of being, of taking care of my brother, because he's full rehearsal mode right now. He's in a play in high school.
Nice.
So, nobility of being able to, because I have a busy life.
Yeah.
And so to be able to help him out is to have the nobility of saying no to my own things and saying yes to helping him out. Yeah. So.
Well, of all of the Heart of a Lion virtues, which is your favorite?
I think that definitely leadership, because I consider myself to be a leader, and I think that leadership is important, even for people that don't consider themselves to be a leader. In a sense, everyone's a leader because you have to lead your own life. You know what I'm saying? So I think leadership's very important.
We should always try and be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Yes, we should definitely be lying strong and everything.
Always be lying strong.
See David Smith Law.com.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
Wait, you are not Chuck.
My dad can help when people get hurt. He loves to help people.
If you are ever injured at work or in a car accident, you should call my friend Chuck.
You can call him at 407-801-2667.
That website again is cwsmithlaw.com.
Offices, Orlando.
Does it actually have that much W's?
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank you, Lon, the amazing Henrique Franhani,
My pleasure, man. Thank you so much. It was awesome.
for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking with you today, and I hope in the future to see your work on your set. I could even be extra.
You know what?
I wanted to.
Next movie, you're gonna be in it. Extra.
Sweet.
Yes, definitely.
Well, also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show. And please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and subscribe. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on The Tiberius Show with our host, Tiberius Boy!
The Tiberius Show is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. Executive producer Joseph Boy, production editor Pierre Laguerre, Green Room manager Danny Boy, and your program host Tiberius Boy. The Tiberius Show is copyright 2018.